and welcome to Represent the Podcast, the show where I, Caiti Beth McKinney, sit down with composers from historically marginalized and underrepresented backgrounds and discuss their works for the horn. Hope you enjoy, and thanks for tuning in. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Represent the Podcast, a show where I talk with composers who are historically underrepresented or marginalized in the classical music world, classical with a loose quotation marks. Today I have Shanyse Strickland, who is a multi-talented, multi-instrumental composer, arranger, educator, performer, you name it, she does it. Welcome, Shanyse.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. This is really exciting for me, so I'm very hyped up about this. We'll just jump right in. So how did you get started in music and composition? Those can be two different questions and stories if you want to share them.
Okay. So music's always been like a thing growing up for me. I'm an only child, so it's just always been me and my mom. And, she would her cleaning day was Sunday. So I would just be sitting on the couch, of course, because I'm an only child. So of course I don't do chores. So I'm just chilling on the couch, watching my mom clean, but she would be playing, Prince, and she's a big Prince fan. She played Parliament and the Funkadelics, and so not honestly, I wasn't really exposed to classical music until I got into school. And I loved listening to this music at home. So when I got the opportunity to pick up an instrument, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And for some reason, all of my friends wanted to play clarinet, and I'm like, oh, clarinet, what? I went to a very small private school, so there was the music program was really tiny, so we didn't have any brass at all. It was a total of 5 students, and everybody picked the clarinet, but I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna pick the flute because I'm different and I am who I am. Just off from a young age, I was already independent and looking to just do different things than other people, so I started playing flute when I was 9, and then when I got better and stuff, and I started to pick up other instruments like the horn. I started picking that up in middle school. And again, it was a very I want to say non-traditional kind of program, literally my band director was just hey, you want to play the French horn, or you want to learn how to play that? And I was like, yeah, why not? I felt like I was getting pretty good on the flute, so I was trying to expand my horizons a little bit. And so I was kind of self-taught because he was a bassoon player and he didn't really know what to do at all. But, self-taught with little to I was getting by, okay? I was not the greatest French horn player. So, I also picked up trombone and just I was definitely doing the jack of all trades thing. But one thing I just knew, I love music and I love making different sounds with music and different instruments and stuff like that. So fast forward to high school, I'm still kind of doing horn, flute, and a little bit trombone, in jazz and stuff. And then I it's time for college or whatever. And so I really didn't know what I wanted to choose as a primary instrument. So my band director was just well, just audition on all 3. And so I'm like, okay, that narrowed it down, So I played a flute solo, I played some horn, and then I played a euphonium solo, I think, at the time. I don't know why. I was just playing everything. But I auditioned on all 3 when I was at Youngstown State University. And I was like, okay, so I probably won't get in on all of these instruments, so it'll kind of narrow down my choice. I ended up getting accepted in all 3 of them, so I still didn't know. I'm like, okay, well, who's going to give me the most money? And then of course the flute one. So I'm like, okay, I'll play flute. So I started out actually at YSU as a flute major, but then my grandmother passed, and I used to play flute for her all the time. And, I just started college, just a lot of chaos going on. So I'm like, you know what? I can't even touch that instrument. It's just too hard for me to even be associated with right now. So I went to the horn professor at the time, Bill Slocum, and I asked him, I'm like, so I kind of got accepted into the French horn studio, but I like turned it down, but I'm kind of wanting to come back if that's okay. And he was just like, oh, of course. Like he was like totally for it. So I was super thankful to him just because looking back at all of that, it's just like, if what happened happened. It just sometimes unfortunate events happen, but then from those unfortunate events becomes like really amazing things that you never even thought would be possible. So it's just like, if it wasn't for him, my grandmother passing and all this other stuff, like I probably wouldn't have been a horn player. I would have stuck with the flute, which, who knows where I would have been if I would have stuck with that. You know what I mean? But yeah, just like I'm telling this story and I'm just like, man, some like great things can happen from like really sucky times.
I could not agree more. I completely agree with you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we don't even have time to go into my life story, but I'm the same way. Like the way things happened or the way they happened, Oh
so
my gosh.
yeah. So I mean, like after that, I ended up sticking with horn, and I was like composing all throughout high school too. So like we had this really small marching band, and we played all this like the traditional whack, just not exciting, not hip, not current, like marching band music. I mean, there's a time and a place for it. I love marching band, but just I wanted to do something that was like more relatable to like, the current 2000s, not stuff from like 1945. Like, just like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
just
you didn't
like
want to play the yeah song or the hey song, over and over.
Exactly. Thank you. I did not want to do that. So I started arranging like these like hip hop tunes that was like popular on the radio at the time. And it was a good experience because I had to learn like, the transpositions for everything. So like going from like horn to like clarinet or horn to trumpet, like that fourth is like crazy, especially like when you don't have any music theory background. I'm just like, what? But I was like, wait a minute. Like I got used to it, and I got used to like writing for like what I felt like was like different languages and stuff. So it prepared me for where I am today.
That's incredible.
That's how I got here.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I remember the most current thing we played when I was in marching band was Usher's Yeah. So that dates me a little bit.
Exactly. Yep, we did too. Yep, everybody did it. We did it.
That was like the 2000s thing to do.
Exactly. You're absolutely correct.
The throwback. Yep. Oh my gosh. So this may be a bit of a silly question, but how did you start composing for horn specifically? Was that just because you liked the way it sounded, or was there a more specific reason?
So I didn't actually, and this is kind of crazy. Like I was doing the arranging and stuff when I was in high school, but I think that it wasn't until grad school that I realized that I wanted to present the horn in a non-traditional way than what it was presented in the past. Like whenever you go to college, your teachers are these orchestral players usually that have won a big job or a local job or just like known well enough to like get a teaching job, but it's usually just in classical music. And if you have like one of these typical Western European instruments, then it usually, it's going to be hard to find a teacher. It's like a very special, like very narrow amount of people that do that kind of thing. So in grad school, I realized that I wanted to do more for horn, but I realized that there wasn't enough music out there. And so I had to either kind of like, I performed some pieces. Like I did, I kind of turned Mozart's the horn concerto, the third horn concerto. I like turned it inside out, and I like wrote all these jazz chords to it and like completely flipped the melodies. And so basically all that to say is that like when I realized that there wasn't enough music for the kind of thing that I wanted to do, that's when I started writing for horn. Because I mean, like, being a performer of the instrument just made it easy for me to know what kind of sounds I wanted to use, know, like, just idiomatically what will work and what won't work, but like me also pushing the envelope to make, because I can do some weird stuff on horn that not a lot of people can do. So like trying to
I want to know
find a
examples.
I mean, I can, it's so weird. I turn my mouth sideways and I blow air out of my mouth sideways, and it gets this like motorboat, like kind of weird sound. I don't have my horn out right now, or else I would demonstrate, but it like makes this like.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. So it's just like, I put it in one of my pieces that I composed for one of my friends back home recently. And he's like, I don't even know if I could do that. I'm like, you're going to figure it out because I can do it. So
I love that. I love that.
Like, it's in the piece. So you have to do it. I'm like, that's the thing about being a composer. Like, I am the master. You have to listen. Like, classical musicians have to listen to what I say. I think that's a very
You're the ultimate ruler.
You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely a very narcissistic thing. And I am not a narcissist. People, please don't think I'm a narcissist. But it's just that one little, it's nice being in control sometimes. And so as a composer, I'm like, hey, you have to do what I say. Period. That's it.
That might be the French horn player in us. Our instrument is so out of control that when you get to the composer part, you're like, now I'm got it.
See, thank you. You cleaned that up really well for me. That was perfect. Yep. Thank you. Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. So, okay, as a horn player who writes music, do you find there any difficulties, when you compose for horn? You just mentioned one, other players thinking they can't do what you do. Do you run into anything else?
Yeah, like, okay, so the way that I write, in like the commissions that I've done, like recently and in the past, usually people want me to write in what they refer to like as like my style. Like, so like my style of playing or my style of improvising. And usually that derives from like a mix of like gospel and R&B. And if you like know anything about those genres, like the singers like will sing these like really fast licks. And I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to even sing it, but like, it's really fast. And so me trying to write that out for horn, sometimes just, I don't know. I mean, just the horn problems that we have, like playing fast licks really clean. Like I want to write things and I want it to sound like me playing my flute, but me playing it on horn. And that's the thing. It's not as fluid sometimes, but there are some like really, really good players out there that can do it. So it's just like, it pushes me as a horn player to like try to emulate these things. And especially when I have somebody, that will dare to even have me write for them. I'm like, oh, you want me to write for you? So you know what this means, right? Like, you know what you're going to be doing. And it's just like, I mean, yes. And I'm like, okay. Because people will tell me like, I don't want any limits. It's like, and I think again, it's the horn player ego. It's like, I can play anything. Mm-hmm. You know who I am? Oh, come on, bring it. And I'm like, okay. But then I started like writing these super fast R&B licks for horn. And it's just like, I don't know how this goes, Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's just like trying to like for in my mind and for the genre that just the culture that I want to kind of implement in my music. Some of the factors it's not idiomatic for the instrument at all. It's just not. And so,
yeah, I'm sure,
you have to find different ways to try to like make it happen. And, it's like, like I'm in New York, like or New Jersey area. So a lot of horn players like play triple horns. So I'm like, that's like a sure way to just cheat and just, be able to play all this magical stuff. So I'm like, excuses. Hey, like, it's not impossible. So yeah, that's the only thing that I run into is just like the really fast kind of, it has to be really fluid, like horns. Yeah, how horn is.
Oh, believe me, I know. It is a struggle.
I mean, yeah. So yeah.
That's great. And, I was just thinking about it, and R&B and gospel both are traditionally not notated the way that we would notate a solo horn piece. And I imagine it's hard maybe to bring some of that aesthetic into traditional notation.
Absolutely. The thing is that, and it's honestly, it's like, it's very intimidating. And I know before we kind of started this, you said that you were speaking to somebody that was like, like all about classical stuff. And this is not like, necessarily an argument, but there's a big but in there. I have to say, you know, I've seen and been a part of, honestly, so many different debates about classical music versus, not even versus, but classical music and just the training, like the pedagogy involving improvisation. And I don't want to, well, for lack of a better phrase, the classical music snobs, okay? These people that are like, Beethoven or die, are they think that jazz and, R&B, even pop music, to be honest, like it's just like the dumbest thing ever. And a classical musician could just, with a few tries, with a few goes at it, can like just perfectly emulate this genre. And I'm like, you don't understand. Okay, so all of that said, to that point is that when I'm writing like these R&B and gospel things, what they look like is 30-second quintuplets. That's
Yum.
that's the thing that, like, because I'm trying to stay true to both genres as much as possible, I get like very like mathematical with everything. So, of course, with these genres, like rhythm is king, just like jazz is. So like it's really like everything, if you are able to write it out, because of course these people have like really good time, you can mathematically break it down and it will be 64th notes sometimes, like just really literally just like what we would probably like say like a rip is in a horn, like whip, like something like that. Or it'll be, like the 30-second note runs where it's just like like something crazy like that. If you were playing it in a classical sense, you would have to definitely look like 4 times at it before you actually nailed it.
Right. You're
So
gonna just make the person panic, when they see it on the
yeah, you
stand.
know what I mean? When we see all that ink on the page, honey, we're like, wait a minute. Like, but the thing is, like, the other thing about the genres is it's all about color. So it leaves room for like maybe like a little bit of a mistake, which I know as a classical musician, it's like, no, we have to be perfect
Whoa.
all the time. But when you
Right.
really want to like capture the essence of this music, like you kind of have to smear notes. Like everything can't be clean. But I will just say, like I said, yeah, it's really, it can get really complicated. And I've been in situations where I will give my music to these classical musicians that are supposed to be able to do everything. I definitely won't name any names, but they'll literally send the composition back to me and say, these rhythms are too complex. And my thing is, now I'm really going to tell you the tea now.
Well, let's go. I'm ready.
My thing is that, again, these people are very respectable, their names, their jobs, and everything. But when a person comes to me and tells me, like, well, this rhythm is too complex, now I'm kind of looking at you sideways because, again, we're supposed to be perfectionists in this. When you choose that type of career to be a professional musician in classical music, like you have to play everything exactly what's on the page and then put some human expression in it, right? So it's just like, but everything technically, the notes, the rhythms, the tempo, that has to be right. So the fact that some of these musicians, it's almost like they just won't take it serious enough, but also they take advantage of the fact that I'm a living composer who can literally just like do this in like 3 seconds. So it's just
Right.
like you kind of think it's like, well, it's like I'm commissioning you to do this piece. So yeah, like I don't sound that good in this key. So can you like raise it or like, can you lower it? And I'm just like, but that's the thing, though. I feel like it's just like you taking advantage because you wouldn't be doing this with like a Beethoven piece or like Mozart or something that you found, in the catalogs for one of these big composers. You would have to play it as is. But then when you get my stuff,
Right.
it's like, it's just it. Yeah. Can you kind of just condense it? Because it's just kind of, and I'm just like, oh, so Oh.
So, so it's like they want you to bring it down to their level instead of them rising to meet you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I feel like part of it is because, I mean, you can say that I'm wrong. I don't really know the reason, but it's just the genre. It's this, again, classical music. What do we think of when we think of classical music? Like elitism. That's what I think of, first off. And
Valid.
just like, very high expectations, and again, perfectionism. So it's like they don't carry that same energy when it's like, oh, again, jazz. Oh, the blues, I could play that in my sleep. Come on. What are the notes? 7, 8 notes? Come on. Like, it's just like, or like pop music. Like, what is that? Like 3 or 4 chords? Like, this is dumb people music. It's simple progressions. Like, that's so beneath us. But I'm like, yeah, but when you see what they're actually doing, and I ask you to emulate that on your instrument, I guarantee you won't be able to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, if they tried to even speak at the speeds that these, rap artists can do, I mean, it's that's a whole art form, being able to articulate and speak that quickly. And we can't articulate it. I will speak for myself. I can't articulate that quickly on the horn like some of these modern artists can do in the pop and rap and genres. And it's crazy that we think we're somehow better because we, do lute on a horn. Yeah, it's entertaining.
Yeah, but I really appreciate the fact that you, as a classically trained musician, can say like, hey, I appreciate some things about hip hop. It's not about the profanity or what they're saying. Like, I don't listen to super harsh trap rap. I'm not into that kind of thing, but I appreciate hip hop thoroughly, not just because I grew up with it, but because, again, like you said, like the rhythmic schemes that some of these people create without having like a drum or an instrument to actually emulate that on, it's amazing. So it's just like you have to appreciate the genres for the qualities that they have. You don't have to like them. But I just feel like, as a musician, like, be versatile enough and like show that like a broad, like you have a broad knowledge of music, not just well, I'm a classical musician, so I listen to classical music. And I'm like, so you don't listen to country, you don't listen to rock, you don't listen to metal, there's so many things, and I can write a book about the reasons of why we need to expose ourselves to all these genres, not just classical music. Listen,
read that book. If you write that book, I'll read it.
It might be a thing. You never know. Listen, I feel like I'm not old enough to write a book yet. Like, I'm 31. I'm like, come on. That's like, book writing is like at your 40s, when it's just like, all right, I need to settle down and drink the coffee, a little whiskey, and then, write a book.
Oh, I love that. One of my friends and I are plotting a book right now, and I just turned 30, so now I have to question if I'm doing this too young.
Listen, don't listen to me. I'm just having the over 30 blues. I'm like, I'm old.
Oh, girl, I mean, like I said, I just turned 30. I am right there with you. It suddenly doesn't feel like we're the prodigies anymore. We're supposed to have our lives together.
Oh my gosh.
I know exactly what you mean. That's a whole other class. We could do a whole podcast about that and classical music and young age stuff. Oh man, that's gonna be like part 2. We'll do another episode.
I'm telling you.
We'll just talk about that.
I am happy that, like, being old, like over 30, I'm feeling settled though. It's like I got through the 20s. I'm not like just out here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
yes. You're out there playing for the Heisman ceremonies. You're living the dream.
Listen, I'm proud of where I am right now. I might feel a little old. The knees are starting to give. But hey, like, we're doing pretty good.
I love that so much. Oh my god.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's incredible. From that super fun part, I'm gonna bring it to something kind of dry, because I'm kind of curious about this.
Sure.
This is one of my little pet things I like to know. So how do you start your composition process? Do you have a melody in your head and then you write it down, or does it unfold as you're writing? How does that work for you?
Okay, so usually, like, I haven't really kind of just came up with something. Most of the time when I'm writing something, people will ask for certain things. They'll ask for certain things, but they'll be like very like vague with it. So it gives me like kind of just still an open canvas to work with. But like my friend right now, I'm working on a funk piece for a friend of mine. And so I know what that funk sounds like. And really, I mean, it just kind of unfolds, like if I'm trying to kind of emulate a certain genre, then I kind of know the different facets of the genre. So like starting with a bass line and funk music, like that's something that's vital. So that I don't know. This is gonna sound so cliche, but it just comes from within me.
Perfect.
And literally, I'll just be, and that's the thing though. I always encourage every musician, whether you're a performer or a teacher, educator, like whatever. I feel like everybody has the ability to come up with music if they wanted to. I mean, we're just like, we're always surrounded with so much music. And I mean, like, I may be stretching it a little bit, but I just like, I feel like everybody's capable. If you really sat down and you wanted to come up with a melody and you picked a key, you can come up with stuff. You just have to like keep an open mind as to like how things can go. And I mean, when this music is like kind of unfolding, I think, sometimes it will be random like clips of like Prince songs that I like grew up with. And it won't be the notes that he used verbatim, but it might be the same rhythm, but it'll be like my own kind of color on it. And if I'm writing for a specific orchestration, then I know how to role play a lot. I think that's a big thing in composing. It's just like, who like no, like identifying what those roles are, what that's gonna be. Because I mean, like that's like the basis of any song. Just like what's actually gonna happen in it. So if I'm like, okay, the bass, and then of course, like very basic music theory things, like you need a bass line and you need harmony and you need a melody. So it's just like, but who's gonna do that? If I'm writing a woodwind trio for like horn, flute, and clarinet, I'm a low horn player, so I want the horn to actually be the bass part, playing the bass part, and then I would have the clarinet be like the alto voice, and then the flute be the soprano voice. I mean, like so it's like there's a bunch of different influences. Like I said, music theory, me growing up around like a bunch of it's just like a big miscellaneous pot of composition soup.
Composition soup. Okay, that's the episode title. We just nailed it. Composition soup. That's perfect.
There it is.
Done.
Boom.
That's amazing. You just made my job so much easier.
See? Composition soup. Yep.
Composition soup. That might be the name of your book too, honestly. Like
composition soup. Listen, you're planting these seeds. You don't even know.
I love it. See, you're talking about this. I'm waiting for you to write like variations on a theme by Prince or something like that. I'm waiting for that piece of music. That's what I want. I love Prince. So I'm here for it.
I'm going to have to give you 50% for all of these proceeds because I'm writing this stuff down and I'm going to do it.
Good. It's going to happen. What? You don't have to don't give me 50%. Just give me a name credit. That's all I need. I'm content.
There you go. Yep. I got you. Right on the front.
I'm here for it.
Right on the front. I gotcha.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I'm excited now.
Exactly.
Composition soup. So good. Oh man, I'm gonna be waiting for that like book launch. Well, that's when we'll do part 2. We'll do the book launch part.
Okay. Yep. There we go.
I'll be back. I'm ready.
So I'll be back.
That's so wonderful. Oh my gosh. And I guess you kind of already answered your compositional language. It's obviously very multi-inspired. You get it from everywhere. Now, do you compose on the horn? Like, do you sit down and play the lick you want to play on the horn and then write it down? Or is it at a piano? Are you a finale girl? Like, what's your move?
So I have perfect pitch sometimes. Don't tell me how that makes sense, but it does. And some people, we can equate that to having really good relative pitch, but like, I just know sometimes I could just pick the note, and sometimes it's like pick the note out of thin air, and sometimes it's like muscle memory. But yeah, so I don't play anything. Like when I'm composing, I know the note that I need to make or that I need to put into, I use Finale, and I also use
Mm.
Note Flight for anybody that's,
Oh yeah, that's the free one, right?
yeah, it's free. And you can like
Mm-hmm.
I have like a little like the premium subscription, but it's like only $8 a
Nice.
month. So, and
Okay,
it's really,
that's in my budget.
listen, okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's user friendly. So listen, I need to be getting like a sponsorship deal
I
with
know.
No
Wait, where's our
Flight.
No Flight promo?
Come on. Like, I need to get a couple months free No Flight. I'm like putting you out there, I'm putting you on. But
We'll
no, it's a
tag them
really
in
good.
this podcast when it drops, for sure.
Yes. Yep. See, there you go. No, it's really user friendly. I've been using this for years, and you got a little Wi-Fi. You can take it with you on the go. It's awesome. But
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
great.
so I never really play anything before I compose it. Like regardless of the instrument, I know kind of like the vibe that I'm going for, and being a horn player, transposing in all 12 keys, like I already know what the notes are and what like the different, the tessitores that I need to use. That's why, like I said, like when I was in high school and I was like playing all these instruments and I would play a trumpet, I would play a trombone, a euphonium, a flute, a horn, a tuba, like all this stuff, and of course I wasn't proficient in like all of these, but just knowing like again like that idiomatic like just sense of how the instrument is supposed to sound, the meat range and like when it gets a little thin, when it gets really low, like that kind of stuff. Like it really like it was very beneficial for me. So yeah, I don't need to play anything. I just sit there and type for hours and hours and hours.
You just lose yourself in it, and then like next thing you know, 6 hours has gone by.
Yeah, definitely. And it's weird because like
Mm-hmm.
my insomnia is like insane sometimes. So I would just wake up at 1:30 and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start writing music. And I'll do that for like 3 hours, go to sleep
1
for
second.
like another 3 hours, and then I have to go to work.
Here's the fun question: who is your favorite composer besides yourself?
Oh, Tchaikovsky.
Ooh, okay. Which Tchaikovsky in particular?
Um, the Fifth Symphony, obviously, but I feel like that's so basic. Like, come on. His
Hey, you know what? If it's real, then it's not basic.
I know, right? It's true. It's true. You're right. See, that's a good one. I want to steal that one. No,
Please do.
his piano concerto in B flat makes me weep every
Oh,
time. I mean,
stunning.
like, it's so good. And just like, I mentioned Bill Slocum earlier. He was my teacher when I was going to Youngstown in undergrad. And he actually, like, towards the end of my studies, like, he had to do, like, the grad level courses or whatever. And we did a class on Tchaikovsky that he was teaching. And him just like, we read these books about his personal life. And I'm just like, man, like Tchaikovsky he was a mama's boy that was just emotional, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was just, but his writing and just like I think the main thing that I love about classical music is the different conversations that these instruments have. And like just orchestration to me is just like one of my favorite things. Like, having like a bassoon and a flute, like that kind of like matchup, or like English horn and bass clarinet.
Oh
Like
yeah.
sometimes like it'll just be these just the colors and just like just I now really that I've gotten really into composing, it's just like the decisions that you make. Like, where you choose to put this chord or note, where you choose to have the phrase lead to, like the story and the journey that composers like just the composers from the past have like done. It's just so good. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
let it be like a good like I really like a good pianist playing the piano. What is it? The piano concerto on B flat. Oh my gosh.
Oh
It's
yeah, it
just
can just
so
take you away.
good, and I mean, like,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've heard like really, really dramatic players play it before, like just like that they take a bunch of time, like, and I'm just like the fact that he wrote the cadenza like in ways that you can stretch it really like a lot, or you can
Mm-hmm.
play it more down to like metronomically. But I just like just the endless possibilities that Tchaikovsky just created for so many ensembles, so many just different instrumentation. It's just like it's just amazing to me. So yeah, he's the
Yeah,
fave for sure.
I love that. I wish he'd written a horn concerto. Can you imagine?
I
Like,
know, like
we were
why?
deprived. Why
I
Tchaikovsky?
know. Why?
Goodness. Yeah, I can think of a couple I'd replace in the canon with some Tchaikovsky if we had
Right?
any.
You know, exactly.
Oh man, that's amazing. You know, you mentioned earlier working with people who commission works from you. So, just from a like purely business side of the industry here, how do you get in touch with people who want to commission music? Do you find them? Do they find you?
Um, Most of the time, to be honest, they do find me.
That's great.
Um, yeah, like
That
I
means you're making
have
it.
you listen, I mean, yes, and it feels amazing to like be in this position. I can't express that enough. Yeah, just during the pandemic, I had like a few opportunities. I think like my first one was I was commissioned to do a brass trio for the University of North Texas, their brass faculty. And that was like my very first commission. And it was like during the pandemic, and I was like, what? Like, like it was
So you've only been at this for a couple of years then.
yeah, literally
Wow.
2020 is when I really started. That was when I
So you're
got
blowing
the
up.
piece done. Man, listen, let's don't come on. You're making me blush over here.
Oh my gosh.
No. I'm trying. I mean, like I have a lot of stuff like in the works. Like something big's happening next year that I can't wait to talk about. I can't tell you now, but I
Oh man,
will.
teaser.
It'll right, a little teaser, but it's gonna be a big thing, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, yeah, my teacher gave me that opportunity, and then shortly after, the current teacher that I had at Montclair State when I was getting my artist diploma, um, I got another opportunity, and that was for like a symphonic piece. So that was awesome. So I've just been spreading my little wings.
No kidding. That's a big genre to write for. That's hard. I could
Yeah,
never.
I mean, it's a
Good
lot.
for you. Yeah, no kidding. So now, have you also commissioned works as a performer? Is that something you've done?
I haven't.
Ah,
And
interesting.
I feel bad. I feel like I should, but I mean, but that's the thing. So, I do have a 9 to 5, which I always
Mhm.
encourage musicians that if you are, some people I understand, they're just like, listen, I'm not good at anything else but music. And I understand that. But if you do so happen to like me, like I have a financial background. So if you do so happen to have that kind of thing going, get a 9 to 5, man. Don't like only live off your art that's like sometimesy and
Mhm.
you like, are broke and like eating ramen all the time. Like, you know what
I
I
live
mean?
in
Like,
Miami. These rent prices, that's all I can afford.
listen, you know what I mean? Like, so like get a job, so but yeah, I have that. And then I still freelance, like I have gigs here and there in New Jersey and then in New York too. So
Mhm.
that's really nice. And then composing is like my other source of income. Like, but my 9 to 5 is like my main thing. So,
Mhm.
it's just like I just keep a balance of all three of those and it works.
Yeah.
But it definitely is taking me three incomes to like survive in this inflation. I tell you that.
Oh my gosh, we finally got gas under $4 down here. I mean, I can't
I'm
even.
telling you, crazy. That's crazy.
Oh, it's wild. Okay, that kind of segues actually. Speaking of challenges and money, what do you think the greatest challenges of your career as a composer or a performer or anything have been so far?
Oh, girl.
I
Loaded. Yeah,
know
I
that's a heavy one.
mean, well, I will come at it in a very positive way, which is usually the opposite of what I do. But I chose a path to further my education in America, which we all know what that means. And I've accrued a lot of debt, but I've been able to travel and meet new people and form new relationships to make me say that I'm actually happy with my career. So, when the pandemic hit, I made lemons out of lemonade.
Made lemons out of lemonade.
Made lemonades out of lemon. Oh my gosh. I said that with so much confidence too. And you said it, and it wasn't until you said it back. See,
I just want to make sure I wasn't losing it. I was like, wait, did I hear that correctly? She's making it harder for herself. Okay, cool.
Listen, I'm supposed to be napping right now. I told you I'm old. I'm supposed to be napping because I got off work today and I decided to have a lovely conversation with you. And now
which I appreciate.
See, no, like you're making fun of my lemonades of lemons.
No. That would be another good title for the podcast. If you want dibs on composition soup, I could do making lemons out of lemonade. That could work just as well.
Oh my gosh, that is great. Oh,
I need a t-shirt out of that, like making life harder for myself since 1992.
Oh my gosh.
I'm ready to start merchandising. Let's go.
Listen, I'm ready. I'm all for it, okay?
Oh, this is great. Okay, sorry, I totally threw you off track.
No, you're fine. That was awesome. Because I literally just said that so confidently, like, yeah, that's it. You're like, but wait, is it? And I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh, incredible.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I like I said, like, just the debt thing, it's been kind of a lot. And just being in the pandemic, like, I was working at a law firm as like a bookkeeper, and like I got laid off because, like the courts were closed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, like some people in the country like had money still. Like I was not one of those people, but like some people had money, some way, somehow. I maybe savings. I don't know what that is. I don't whatever.
It's a mystery.
But, so I was just kind of surviving off of master classes. Like I was giving master classes like virtually. And, again, like that just came from because I teamed up with one of my friends in Atlanta, and we were doing these like R&B covers, and everybody was like, whoa, you're doing something other than like Mozart on the horn or Strauss.
Whoa.
Like, that's really cool. So what else do you do? And I'm like, I do a whole bunch of stuff. And they're like, oh my gosh. So it was just like a thing. So I got to do that. And then, I was working on like these commissions. So, you gotta deal with this kind of stuff when you're a musician all the time. Like we didn't get into like nursing degrees or lawyers or accountants or a banker. Like we didn't pick that path. But I mean, I don't regret it at all. Like it definitely had its like hardships. Like, when I do a gig and then I don't get paid afterwards when I thought I was going to be getting paid afterwards, and it takes them 3 freaking months to give me my check.
No, that's too long.
3 months.
Oh my
3
months.
months. And
3
it's
months.
just like, oh no, we lost it. And it was like, oh wait, we made you another one. Oh no, it had the wrong address on it. Oh no. And it's just like, just fire, just chaos, just going on in this office. And I'm like, dude, I am in accounts payable. I know how it works. Stop.
Can you imagine telling your landlord, oh no, I lost my check for you? Like, come on.
You know what I mean? I just had to express that frustration. I know a lot of people feel.
You go right ahead.
Listen, it's just, it could be a lot. It could be a lot being a musician in general, but I have found some of the silver linings, and I'm happy that I did, because it just makes it all worth it, man. I would never want to just be submersed in capitalism, like at a job that I actually absolutely loathe, and just not being happy, you know, like I have a 9 to 5. I'm like a church secretary and they're like bookkeeper, and you know they pay me really well, and like I can tolerate the job. Like I'm not like, oh, I want to leave like all the time. Like it's tolerable, and it's helping me stay afloat. It's consistent money. Like composing and you know freelancing is awesome, but it's just like I have to pay rent in expensive ass New Jersey. So like,
Right.
yeah,
Absolutely. And that's
you
very real. I'm
know,
a freelancer too. I completely get it. It's very
yeah,
much a choice sometimes of, you know, do I want to go teach this lesson when I have a 102-degree fever, you know, or not pay my electricity bill? You know, like you gotta, you know, figure out what's going
girl,
on in your life. It's
you
tough. It's really
know,
tough.
it really is. And you, like you said, you just gotta make certain decisions. But I'm like extremely happy with where I am right now, and it
Oh,
just,
that's
you
so good to
know,
hear.
it's only up
Mm-hmm.
from here, man. It just like I keep getting more and more opportunities. I'm gonna be starting up a little duo situation that's actually going to be getting me playing more with a friend from back home in Cleveland. So, you know,
Ooh,
it's going to be some
horn duo, or what are
shows.
we talking?
It's
What's
going to
their
be
instruments?
horn and trumpet and electronics.
Oh, cool. Oh, and electronics. Love
Yeah.
it. Here for it.
Yeah. So, and you know, so it's just like there's going to be some things there. So, you know, like the possibilities are endless. But like I said,
Mm-hmm.
with all the debt, with all of the, you know, waiting 75,000 years for checks, and you know, with all that flim
Yeah.
flam,
Flim flam.
I
Oh, that's another good one.
right. I don't regret any of it. You know, I'm so
Mhm.
happy of where my journey has taken me, and you know, like I said, it's only up from here. Next, I'm gonna be
That's great.
Lizzo with the French horn.
Hey,
Boom.
I'm ready. I will be waiting. They'll bring out some crystal French horn for you to play. Let's go.
Come on, right? And that'll be, listen, I try not to drop it. No, it's gonna be a good time. Yeah, I'm gonna be
Yeah, that
Lizzo
seems
with
scary.
like, you know, more clothes, but like with a French horn. That's me. There you go.
Oh, I'm
That's
so here
literally
for it.
me.
Oh,
Yep.
that's the dream, actually.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like literally the
Yeah.
dream.
Oh, and within these challenges that you face and, you know, going to college and all that stuff, do you feel like you've ever had anything, you know, explicitly, words are hard, explicitly hard because of gender or race for you? Do you feel like that's been an influence on your career?
Ooh,
I
yeah.
know that's a loaded question.
No. And I'm happy that like I'm like a deep ass person. I love talking about this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, you you know, I feel like I have it's like kind of bittersweet. I've played it to my advantage being a black woman and being a composer and a French horn player because, you know, I don't like just checking off a diversity box for somebody. Like, you know, I think that, well, I know that I get the work that I do because I'm a credible French horn player, but also because I'm a black woman. So if you can have like the best of both worlds, then it's like, yeah, let's pick her. And listen, I don't have any shame with taking that money. If I'm gonna
Nope.
enter something because I'm specifically a black gay woman, like I'm completely fine with that. That's
Good
like
for you.
completely okay with me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily like a sellout. And, you know, I've kind of like thought about that and felt that before. Like, you know, some of these black musicians will get fellowships, and it's literally like, this is a fellowship that you have to audition for, nonetheless, but it's a fellowship because we want your black face to make our orchestra look like we like diversity. And I'm like, oh, that definitely feels a little sellout-ish. But also, you know, if you're getting paid, well, man, why not? And you get to provide representation in these contexts
Hmm.
too. So it's just
Right.
like that's the biggest thing for me. Representation is so important. I mean, like people don't understand just the
Hmm.
possibilities and the different things that can come from representation. Like
Hmm.
I didn't see anybody that looked like me that was playing the French horn or the flute or the clarinet or whatever else. Like when I was in elementary school and all these people came to like let us try out these instruments, all of them were white. But I mean, I love music so much that I didn't even care about the color, of course. But it's just like what it could have done for me to see it, a black woman playing the French horn, and that even being an option when I was 9. Dude, I would be a monster. Like, I would be the greatest French horn player ever. Right. I would be so good. I mean, like, not saying that I like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like if me seeing that and having that representation at such a young age could have made me even a better musician. Like, you never know. Like, you just never know. Like, the connections, the conversations, the support that when somebody who looks like you is in that position, like what they could do for you. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
You know, I've gotten in situations, honestly, more so like in the real world, opposed to like being in music. Just like as a Black person in general, just, dealing with like, I told you I used to work at a bank and like somebody asked me if I knew how to count. It's just like, I'm like,
stop.
We're in a bank. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Why do you think I have this job? Do you know how to count? Like, come on. Oh my gosh.
It's just like, and it's just like, you can just already tell the vibe of people. But even being in those situations has made me an even better communicator. And I have boundaries and I know what I take and what I don't take. I am a very outspoken person. So I don't tolerate any kind of disrespect from anybody at all. But, like people usually, I feel like I have a certain essence where people usually know to be on their best behavior. Like, I'm not intimidating at all. Like, anybody will tell you, like, I'm like a cool, super chill person, but it's just like, I've had, unfortunately, white men like kind of try to test to be like, oh, so, you play jazz. It's like, yeah. It's like, so like, did you grow up with that? Is that like just a thing for you? Or just like, just challenging me with stuff like, oh, so who did you study with and who do you know? And, that's like just any typical guy just trying to size up a woman, like regardless of race. But then it'll just get into more specific questions of just like, so do you always wear your hair like that at like concerts? Like somebody asked me that recently and I was like what? And he was just like, do you like straighten it at all? And I was like, no, I don't actually. He was like, oh. He was like really surprised. And I was like, dude, what? I'm like, why are you as this straight white dude looking at me, asking me about my hair?
I would really want to clap back and be like, okay, do you always wear your face like that? Like, but that's my first thought.
I'm just like, and I asked him,
the
like,
audacity.
I'm like, so this isn't his name, but I'm like, I don't know why I want him to be Tom right now. I'm like, so Tom, like, do you think my hair is unprofessional? He's like, I mean, like, I've seen it in like funk groups and stuff. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, you are literally just like stereotyping and gaslighting the heck out of it. I'm just like, all right, this conversation is over. Don't worry about my afro. Like, just don't
and
worry
that's so
about
important.
it.
So when that line hits, you're like, we're not engaging with this. We're done. Moving on. Thank you.
So I just swiftly walked away. Like stuff happens. Or this is just the other thing so like I was in a rock orchestra recently here in New York, and the like producer, money person, like he had the money, he paid me. I don't know, like the manager or something of the group. Rock and roll was the theme. And so he wanted to bring up the whole, the origin of rock and roll, which we know from some of our music history classes that origin of rock and roll will not necessarily be the most factual. Like we will say that the Beatles magically came up with rock and roll.
Or Elvis.
Or Elvis, right. Elvis was like the start of that, or, just not giving homage to any of like the Black pioneers in rock and roll, like Muddy Waters and stuff. But it wasn't even that. He was just like, And this was like in front of the audience. He was going to say this, but like during the rehearsal, like everybody stopped him, like, no, because mind you, like I was the only Black person in the orchestra. And so he's just like, rock and roll comes from the classic sounds of the cotton fields in the 1920s and 1930s. And I'm like, the classic sounds? You mean like the whips and the chains and people getting murdered? Like, he was just like, and he was just like, the people of the South and the cotton fields graciously gave rock and roll to great groups like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like,
Ooh.
Okay. So, it's just like that kind of stuff. And he also, I don't know that he was from the UK. And so like, over there, racism is like a little different and they don't really understand. I mean, I don't want to say they don't understand, but sometimes they don't realize like how freaking heavy it still is here. And you're talking about like an American thing, like an American homegrown thing. And it's just like, whoa. So, I pulled him to the side and I was like, hey, I'm like, you can't say that. Like, I didn't even ask him. And again, this is like the producer. He's not the conductor, but I'm like, you can't say that. I'm like, that's extremely inappropriate. He was just like,
yeah, just a little bit.
And he could just see it on my face. He's like, you're right. You know what? I'm so, and the apologies happen. But yeah, all I have to say is that people can be really ignorant, man. And it's just, and I mean ignorant in the literal sense of the term, just like they just do not know that it's not okay to say stuff. But your good friend Shanyse is gonna let you know in the most kindest way, though. I like letting people down pretty easily. Just like, hey, don't say that. You can't say that. And they'll be like,
that's very
why?
kind of you to say it in a nice way, because it could be just as easy to like, burn the world down,
I know, but that's the thing that I would much rather a person learn than opposed to them, me being really angry, because people won't listen to you when you're screaming at them and when you're angry, because all they can feel is the anger. But if I'm intensely looking at you, they feel the guilt. It's just like, your parents saying like, I'm disappointed in you, opposed to them being like, it's just like, dang, like, why didn't I know better? Why didn't I know that was really ignorant to say? I'm like, yeah, you got some shadow work to do, friend, but don't say that. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so yeah, man.
And at least he was receptive enough that he listened to, that's always a win.
Absolutely. Right. Because that does not always happen. So that's the thing. So, but yeah, it's all good. I didn't have any bad feelings. I'm just like, yeah, I'm glad we had that talk. Love you. And I just walked off.
Like, thank you. Bye.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like we were talking about boundaries earlier. I feel like that's really important right now, especially since all the Black Lives Matter movement kicked in.
Yeah.
I feel like Black people in particular are being asked for a lot of unpaid labor to try and educate everybody else. And it's like, oh, wait a second. That is not, you're not getting paid for this.
Oh, man. See, that's
I know, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's another podcast, girl.
All right, session number 3.
Lord, yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. And sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes I am like very nice about it, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not talking about that right now. Like somebody asked me, like, like, well, how did your hair grow so fast? I'm like, you know what? You might want to Google that, look that up on YouTube. It'll show you exactly. Just literally type in exactly how you would say it, which I know would be like, how do Black women get their hair done or make it grow so fast? And you will see somebody getting hair extensions. And it'll tell you exactly how they get inserted and everything, installed, boom.
Somebody's already done that work. You don't need to do that work.
Right? You know what I mean? I'm just like, we have the internet. It's there. So sometimes, I'm just not in the mood and I don't feel like it, but I will kindly direct them to Google. Yep.
We have this beautiful thing. You can go do the work yourself.
Yep. It's easy. Just a couple words is all you need and it'll come right up for you.
Incredible. Oh my gosh. Well, we are running out of time. I could keep talking to you for like
I
5 more hours.
know. I
I'm game for
know.
do repeat sessions. Like, let's go.
I know.
Let's wrap it up with something kind of fun. What
Yes.
hobbies and activities do you do for fun outside of music? Since this is your side hustle, what's your side hustle?
Side. I love like I'm a big gamer, but like not like necessarily video games. Like I love going to arcades,
Oh, fun.
Pac-Man,
Mm-hmm.
Galaxia, I think Galaxy, whatever it's called. You know, like I like the old
Could
school
be.
games. But like Dave and
What's that one
Buster's are
that's
my jam.
Pong? Do you play Pong? That's one of the bars.
Yeah, that one. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that one. I like that one. That one's fun.
Yeah, listen, that one or like Centipede, like,
Oh yeah.
that kind of thing. So like,
Mm-hmm.
anybody, I'm single, anybody want to take me out on
Hey,
a date, Dave and Buster's. Dave
that's
and
you're making their job
Buster's.
so easy.
Right, exactly. Like take me out to Dave's, give me a little food, a little games, and I'm okay. But yeah. So no, I love like doing that. And then yeah, so I mean, other than that, other than doing the arcade games, I like painting too. And I'm not like any good. Like I'll like, do smiley faces or something. But I just like, oh, and coloring. I like coloring. It's very therapeutic for me.
Are you a color inside the lines kind of gal, or don't care?
Absolutely inside the lines. If it's out, I destroy the whole thing and do something else. I'm such
I
a
love it.
perfectionist.
Amazing.
Like, no, I went out a little bit. And I just throw it away and I just get another one.
Here's the other hard hitting color question: are you markers or colored pencil?
Markers.
That might be the most divisive. Markers, all right. That might be the most divisive question of the pod. Markers or
right. I'm
colored
like,
pencils?
oh. Right,
That's
for
amazing.
sure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and then do you have any upcoming projects or pieces you'd like to promote? I'm sure you do.
Ooh, okay. So, yeah, so November 18th, if anybody's in Harlem, I'm gonna be having a little solo show, and I haven't done a solo show in a really long time.
Ooh.
And it's gonna be a tuba player there, a trumpet player, and a guitar player. Like it's gonna be that very odd quartet. Like, but the tuba player is awesome. All the musicians are awesome. So in Harlem, I can give you more
Incredible.
details at another time, but it's in Harlem.
Yes, I'll post
So
them.
that's a thing.
Perfect.
And then
Mm-hmm.
February 8th, I'm going to be doing a concert at Kent State University with Teresa May. That's my trumpet playing friend that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to be
Amazing.
doing a bunch of cool stuff with electronics. So February
So cool.
8th, Kent State. Boom.
Amazing. And are you, correct me if I'm wrong, are you writing a piece for this book of solos for the young horn player that's coming out?
I am.
Felt
I
like I saw
did
you in this.
actually. Yeah, I
Okay.
wrote a little piece and it's so fun. It's like, it's supposed to be for younger horn players, but I just feel like it's like, a good like standard, like, it's like 3 minutes long, not too
Mm-hmm.
long, just like a little splash or something. And of
Yeah,
course it
not a
has
huge
some
commitment,
groove
but
in
like
it.
put on your recital.
Right,
Yeah, groove.
you
Okay, cool.
know.
Mm-hmm.
It's groove and has nice melodies in it. So yeah. So yep,
We love
it's a
it.
big thing. Yep.
And is that already published or is that coming out soon?
It should be soon. I feel like it's already published. I could be mistaken,
Okay.
but it's
Okay.
definitely like been in the works, so it should be out by like before the end of this year.
Okay, great. Love it. Yeah, that's so important to write for like everybody kind of like having those younger pieces that people can play because then we don't get all stuck playing Adagio and Allegro every 5 minutes. So.
Right, exactly. Yep, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's so important. Oh, Shanyse, this has been amazing. I could literally keep talking to you forever.
Right,
Thank
I
you.
know.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for coming on. This has just been so much fun. I don't think I've laughed that hard in a while. So
Right.
that's always nice. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be back again next week with more, composers talking about the horn.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Thank you so much. This has been Represent the Podcast. For more episodes, you can find us at Spotify and Apple Podcasts or on my website, www.caitibethmckinney.com. If you liked what you heard today, please rate us 5 stars or leave a review. Thank you for listening.